Let's discuss this and much more in this very important moment with Ambassador Edward Djerejian. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Syria under President Reagan and President H.W. Bush. And CNN military and diplomatic analyst John Kirby is here, former spokesman for the Pentagon and State Departments under the Obama administration. Great to see both of you. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Ambassador, can you just give me your initial reaction in all of your time in Washington in politics and in diplomacy to the fact that the president is threatening military action via Twitter this morning?
Well, this is President Trump's modus operandi. It's certainly novel. We had a panel here at the Baker Institute of Rice University, and a very bright Rice student characterized President Trump's modus operandi as enrage and engage. And I think that's what you're seeing, enrage and engage, because the tweets that you just mentioned earlier, one is the threatening one of missile strikes, the other one on Russia, that he always holds out the hope of having a relationship between the United States and Russia. And, you know, not very recently, he invited Putin to come to Washington. So what you're seeing here is his modus operandi. He's transactional, and he likes to disrupt the landscape before he engages. Now, this has very important consequences, and some of them can be unintended. When you're talking about military action, what is going to be done? He has already struck, as we know, with missiles, with Tomahawk missiles, Syrian targets in the last episode
about a year
of
ago,
Bashar
right?
Assad, about a year ago. And so what is he going to do? Is he going to repeat that, a one-shot affair that really doesn't deter Bashar al-Assad from continuing the use of chemical agents? So, or is he going to go to a more sustained military policy of not just one strike, albeit perhaps a much larger first strike, but sustained strikes, which will then, of course, you start entering the fog of military battles.
Let me ask you, John, I do want to talk about kind of what this means going forward, but just in this moment, Donald Trump tweets this threat out this morning. Russia responds almost immediately on Facebook. What should people make of the tit for tat this morning? I mean, it seems a pretty scary way to be conducting business here.
Yeah, there's definitely a concern, and I think a fair concern, that they're escalating the tensions here in Syria to a degree that we haven't seen before, and making this more about the U.S. versus Russia than about the United States and the international community against Bashar al-Assad and his use of chemical weapons against his own people. And so, yeah, look, there's about 7 different wars going on in there. Sunni versus Shia, Turkey versus the Kurds, Iran versus Israel. We could go on and on. We don't want it to become the U.S. versus Russia. And I think this escalating rhetoric is doing nothing to tamp that down. He's also getting ahead of his own Pentagon, by forcing their hands and to maybe change their own planning procedures as a result of this. And if we conduct this strike with allies, he's very likely getting ahead of their planning processes as well. So it's, it's reprehensible and irresponsible on many levels.
Ambassador, if you're in your old post at this morning, or let's say you are Russian Ambassador John Huntsman in Moscow right now, what are you doing right now?
Well, it's a very difficult position to be in, but fundamentally, the most important thing is to avoid a major escalation with Russia, obviously. But let's not forget the 2 major nuclear powers in the world remain the United States and Russia. That's why it's essential that there be somehow a U.S.-Russian dialogue at different levels. We don't have that. And the lack of substantive communications is very dangerous. The second thing is that Bashar al-Assad is not totally under the control and influence of Russia and even Iran, although they have major influence on him because they are the major agents of his survival. He could not have survived without the support of Russia, Iran, and especially Hezbollah, and the connection there with Iran is obvious. So the Assad regime, when I was ambassador to Damascus, when his father was president, they built up a very substantial chemical weapons arsenal. It was their, if you will, poor man's deterrent against Israel's nuclear forces. But they have a lot of experience and on the use of WMD chemical weapons. And he has used it, some 85 times, Bashar, various forms, either chlorine or other chemical agents, and he will use it again because for him, The issue is a very simple and brutal one. It's his regime's survival, and he will not stop from any action that, in his eyes, would keep him in power.
Even if there's not one single civilian left to be ruling over in your country. John, you read this today, that obviously that military response is coming. You read this tweet, that all signs seem to be pointing that. But in the tweet, in any of the signals that are coming from even the Pentagon, which is not much because they're still deliberating, or the White House, do you see any signs that this, with this tweet, with this threat, get ready, also will come with a long-term strategy that everyone, I mean, pretty much everyone, left, right, and center, has said they haven't seen yet?
No, not at all, Kate, and that's the real concern here. You know, I mean, what looks like it was supposed to be a retaliatory strike is fine to, to hit back at Assad's depredations. I get that, but what this administration has not done and never has tried is to sort of insert itself back into the diplomatic process and to try to find an end to the civil war and a more peaceful future for Syria and for the Syrian people. They completely abdicated any leadership.
It's not easy. Obama didn't do it. As you said, there are 7 or 8 wars going on inside the country. It's
Right.
not easy, but at this moment, something's got to give.
Yeah, no, look, Kate, no argument, and I think that you're right. We didn't get there under the Obama administration, but at least we tried. At least we were at the table in the UN process, trying to find a diplomatic solution. Look, a year ago when he fired those 59 Tomahawks, I said that this now maybe gives him the leverage to have more effect on the diplomatic front, and he didn't do it. He simply did the strike and then walked back away from it again. So we'll see where this goes. But no, they have not had a comprehensive policy, much less a strategy for where they're going in Syria, other than just kicking ISIS out, and now he's talking about pulling the troops out precipitously from that.
Well, let's see if that's possible, to pull troops out and hold people and hold bad actors accountable and responsible in country. Ambassador John, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Amazing what we're looking at this morning in a tweet, and now we stand by to see what the action is.